Believe it or not, despite all the great songs by bad rappers or bad songs by great rappers videos that I've done, I've never done bad albums by great rappers. Until now. As you probably already know, my criteria for this video is albums by rappers that are underwhelming and not up to their usual standard in my opinion. It doesn't mean the albums have no redeemable qualities whatsoever or they're the absolute worst thing ever released, but just that they're pretty below par for these rappers that I usually thoroughly enjoy. How am I gonna do this with like one hand on the mic? I've got 6 albums to share with you guys, so are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, I'm covered in gang. Hey, I run with the gang. I do what you can.
So I listened to Crash Talk way back when it dropped in 2019 and pretty much immediately forgot about it. I wasn't crazy into ScHoolboy Q's music at the time, like I enjoyed it, I just wasn't a massive fan, so not a big deal. Then I revisited it a few weeks ago after I revisited Blankface and absolutely loved it, and man, it seems even worse now. Crash Talk feels like Q doing the exact opposite of everything that usually makes his music so amazing. Instead of 4 to 5, sometimes even 6-minute songs that carry their length extremely well, he opts for 2 to 3-minute songs on here that feel longer than they actually are because they're less interesting. I remember Q saying that he felt that Blankface was too dark and introspective, so I feel like this album was his attempt to take a hard turn into making mostly turn-up songs that, for the most part, still sound extremely dark, but they're not even as catchy or just good sounding as ScHoolboy Q's turn-up songs from his better albums.
I'm dripping on you, I gotta have you, I spin it on you, I might box you, now get in my crew.
I appreciate Q going for something slightly different for his music on Crash Talk, but it took away the main things that make him stand out as an artist, and it made him sound like anyone else. Lies straight up sounds like a song from a DJ Khaled album that Q accidentally stumbled onto.
Stop telling lies on me, that shit ain't okay. Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, who the fuck said I ain't him? Got a new deposit, nigga, I ain't them. I fucked it up, I made enough, my rims, my truck.
He's mostly a cool voice over trap style beats on here, and for Q, I find that disappointing. There are a couple tracks like Tales, Black Folk, and Crash, which have flashes of ScHoolboy Q's regular strengths in there, but even those songs, they're still shorter and a little bit underwhelming. It's a shame I don't think it's a better album, because I actually think the name Crash Talk, it just sounds pretty cool, and the artwork for it I think is absolutely beautiful. I would get the vinyl for this album if I actually loved the music on it. It's not an irredeemably bad album, but it definitely is the weakest one that I've heard from Q by a long stretch. But hey, if you want to hear me praising the hell out of a ScHoolboy Q album, watch my recent top 10 rap albums of 2016 video, and you can just hear me heaping more praise on top of Blankface.
UK hot with it, blue spots with it, every continent love when I spit it, corners the blocks, even the cops feel it.
Nas is one of the greatest rappers of all time. I haven't even listened to his full discography yet, but from what I have heard, I'm fully confident in saying that. All I know is that he started off pretty incredible, and 30 years later, he is still going strong. But there's one album that stands out as extremely below his standards, and that album is Nostradamus. Just the name of this project, I feel like that was a sign of bad things to come. Nostradamus is a silly name. I like how this was the point where he stopped doing the face imposed over the backdrop of a city style of album cover. I like to believe that this album killed off that iconic style. From the production to the flows to, sadly, even the lyricism, all of them take a big dive from Nas's usual standard on here. God Loves Us is a great example to bring up because he sounds like Nas light on there, like he's trying to recapture that Illmatic, it was written style of lyricism, but he just failed miserably at doing it.
He who has ears, let him hear. And he who has sight, let him see. He who has life, let him be. Jealousy in the hood, felonies in the hood. Thugs with guns become celebrities in the hood.
His hook game is pretty dreadful too on this album. I know with Nas's music the main focus isn't the choruses, but he tries on here to make them more commercially appealing, and it sounds awful coming from him.
Nasty, Nas to Esco, to Escobar. Now he is Nostradamus.
Fully grown with your hormones now. Got your own home and you're alone when a bone, get your back blown out.
And this album has Big Girl. The less I say about that creepy ass chorus, the better. And anyway, I can talk more about that song in a different type of video. The only track that I truly loved on here was Project Windows. That one has some more focused storytelling, and the fact that it's not Nas himself doing the hook makes the smoother sound of that one work way better. Like, it actually sounds really good. Now, the story behind this album helps to explain why it's bad so perfectly. This album, Nostradamus, dropped a few months after Nas's third album, I Am, and was supposed to be comprised of songs that got scrapped from I Am because they were leaked. But at the last minute, Nas changed his mind about what he wanted this album to be and quickly recorded a bunch of new music for it, meaning that this is quite literally a rushed album to meet a deadline. It sounds uninspired, and it's because Nas tried to make it as quickly as possible. Overall, Nostradamus is a pretty sad listen, but it's where I'm up to right now in Nas's early discography, and I'm pretty sure Stillmatic will be a return to form when I get around to that one. At least this bad album gave me something to look forward to.
Drop it, you got everybody in here, oh my gosh, and bad bitches, I'm your dada, white girls go gaga.
The funny thing about this pick is there's gonna be a few people watching that think it's controversial to even call Big Sean a great rapper, but I don't think he's ever really been as bad as a lot of people say that he is. Except on this album. He sucks here. I don't know if this will make sense to anyone, but Big Sean has the delivery and rapping style on this album of a Nickelodeon rapper. There's something so corny about the way that he says things on Finally Famous, and then he tries to overcompensate for that awkward, childish rapping sound by having explicit lyrics mixed in with his corny wordplay. I Do It kicks off the album as the first full song, and it really shows you what to expect from the rest of it, with some of the worst lines on the whole thing, and some of the weirdest forced vocal inflections from Sean.
My crew is who I be with it. Rose, I sippity sip it. I'm Quagmire, I fuck hoes, my cash flow, I gig it. I love girls that's Arabian, Albanian, Caucasian. I ride around getting cranium, cause my dick is hard as titanium. She put that thong on my groin, and then it go boing. Got my fronter on her bumper, does it look like she toying?
That energy continues throughout the whole album, with some of the worst offenders being Don't Tell Me You Love Me, with its hilariously bad hook, and its content of Sean complaining about his girl leaving him because he cheated. And High has some of his strangest vocals that just don't sound right.
You're gonna make it too hard for me. I wish you were ugly. It wouldn't be so hard to leave. I don't give a fuck about anything that you're telling me, cause right now it's all irrelevant.
Even a song which seems promising and sounds like it could be good, like Marvin and Chardonnay, which featured 2011 era Kanye West on it, has one of the most irritating beats on the album and a lackluster chorus that feels pretty underwhelming for what the track is trying to do. Speaking of irritating, that horrible dance ass song is on here as well. It deserves a spot on this list just for that. Like most albums in this video, it's not completely irredeemable, but for the majority of it, it's one big corny miss that, like I said, feels like the output of a rapper who just got finished with his Nickelodeon contract.
Free slide to the fast free my old head. The world full of pathetic speed had him like always.
Look, I like Westside Gunn quite a bit as a rapper, but where he usually shines is with his album curation skills. He usually picks great beats, and he usually picks great features to go over them. And a lot of the time, Westside Gunn can sound pretty cool over these beats. But on this one, none of those talents are as present. The features are fine, I guess, but everything else, No sir. First off, Westside Gun's rapping, something about it just comes off as flat out annoying on Fly God is an Awesome God 2. Maybe it's the repetitive sample loops with barely present drums type of sound that almost all of the beats on here have that just doesn't really gel well with his rapping for me. Whatever it is, I don't think it sounds good. If you told me most of these beats were created in about 10 minutes with the producers quickly chopping up and looping samples as repetitively as possible, and then Westside Gun got in the studio and just freestyled over all of them over a couple of sessions, and then after that called up his typical array of features to quickly hop on the song so he could fire it out there, I would believe you.
Pyrex souvenirs maneuver king. Kerry James in the dope spot. Handed purple tops out the door now. I'm on my T-bro, we ran the option with a kilo. I came home, I copped the mansion in the speedboat. I got posted by the samples, fiends trample. West, you got the Van Gogh with the stamp, yo. Extra high from needles, dollars with the 5 panel.
This was the second of 3 projects that Gunn dropped in 2020, just 3 months after his great Pray for Paris album, and it isn't even close to holding up to that. It feels like he didn't really care about this mixtape, he fired it out just to do it. I mean, there's only like 9 actual songs on it, and 5 skits / interludes that don't really add to the experience in any way whatsoever. And even then, saying there's 9 actual songs is generous, considering the last song on the album has less than 2 minutes of music before becoming a skit for 3. The whole thing screams this was rushed. But honestly, the main reason I wanted to bring this album up is because of a song that isn't even on the album anymore. Great Minder wasn't always the 12th song on this mixtape. When it first came out, track 12 was called Drive By Love, and it is hilariously awful. Westside Gun should be banned from rapping about sex.
That grip on them thighs, you fit my dick perfect. I don't even use no condom, me and you be mobbing. You look back, I spit in your face, smack your ass. You call me Daddy West and I nutted. I'm about to come right back.
That's all I wanted to say about it. Westside Gun's sex songs are always his worst songs. I guess Michael Irvin stands out to me now because Tyler sampled it for the intro of Call Me If You Get Lost, and Michael Irvin is a fine song, but outside of that, this is probably the most skippable Westside Gun mixtape that I have ever heard. It's 35 minutes long and somehow exhausting. Just really bad.
And we all wanna be happy. Do I look happy? Do I look happy to you?
Now I know, this isn't really an official album, but it's an album that exists in some form, and it is bad. It's maybe cheating a little bit to pick this, but I can't just talk about Jesus as King again, man. I decided to listen to Donda 2 specifically for this video, so now this video is my outlet to call it horrible. Now I think it would be kind of unfair for me to bring up and criticize the moments on this album where Kanye doesn't really say any words and he's just ad-libbing or mumbling to try and find a good flow for the songs. Like I said, this album is literally unfinished by definition. But the biggest negative blow against Donda 2 is the fact that I'm pretty happy that these songs haven't been finished and given an official release. Just the general ideas behind so many of these songs sound terrible. Even with an artist as musically talented as Kanye, you'd need to do a metric load of work to turn songs like Flowers or Security or Too Easy into something that comes across as even decent. I've been sent meme rap songs on my paid request streams that sound better than Too Easy.
2 keys, 2 breeze, too easy. Going at the foundation, lonely night. Rapping up, gonna put them but no mind.
And on the tracks that are closer to being finished with their songwriting, the lyrical content sucks ass on here. I don't care about how much you hate Pete Davidson at this point, Kanye. I don't know if it's supposed to be a big,
oh my god, I can't believe he just said that
moment every time that Kanye refers to or mentions Pete Davidson on here, but like, Every time he does it, I just find it so lame. Broken Road has to have one of the cornier Kanye verses in a while. Sci-Fi is terrible when you focus on the lyrics. On Selfish, he even says, even friends got an END at the end. That is something that my primary school teacher told our class to teach us how to spell friend with the I before the E. Although she obviously framed it in a nicer way, like friends never end. So yeah, Kanye has some primary school level bars on this album. If there is one thing I can say for Donda 2, is that it's a perfect representation of the current career decline of Kanye. Questionable, messy, and suggesting that he should take a step back to work on a lot of things before even trying to make a comeback. I'll take this back if I get proven wrong in the future, but I feel like the Donda 2 sessions are best left as an unfinished demo album of the past. Maybe finish We Did It Kid and drop it as like a Baby Keem or an Offset and Quavo song, but keep everything else.
Fuck, I lost my mind. I've been running since 7:45. The dirt road straight out the mouth. The bird for a nigga faint.
Now that we've finished talking about Kanye, let's talk about his son. Owl Pharaoh era Travis Scott. I knew I was in for something bad when track 1 of the album had Travis talking about coming down his boxers from a wet dream. I wish I was lying. What follows after that is 12 more tracks that mostly lack anything interesting and do nothing to make Travis Scott stand out. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's so clear that he hadn't found his sound yet. His delivery isn't energetic at all. There's some points where he straight up sounds bored on here, and obviously this project doesn't have the highly produced atmosphere that makes his music so great.
Time cruising, rockin' Vegas in the Garden State, getting cake. Could've thought I'm Jewish, the way your eyes glow. Make me wanna have your sight. Damn, I dug my own trenches. Yeah, I have my own pincers.
And a lot of the time, it feels too much like him just trying to sound like other people. Fuse Kid Cudi and Kanye West into one person, and that's pretty much what you get with Travis's rapping on here. There is some cool instrumental moments throughout the mixtape. Parts of it almost come across as a little experimental, and Travis did play a part in the production on every single song, except for the Chaz interlude, which was done by Chaz Bundick, so fair play to Travis Scott for that. And occasionally there's signs of what Travis would go on to become, but all of that doesn't really make Owl Pharaoh a good mixtape for me at all. It's pretty weak as a whole. Maybe Travis had a solid vision for the project, but not all of the right tools to be able to execute it properly at the time. I don't know. Because something like Dance on the Moon actually sounds kinda cool, and like it could be even better with some more polishing. And to a lesser extent, Bands. That one isn't a masterpiece or anything, but it's just got a really catchy hook and it got stuck in my head. I got bands. Don't need those. But most of it isn't very memorable. It was probably worth mentioning this at the start, by the way, but yes, mixtapes are eligible for this video. Albums is just used in the title because it's a quick, short word that gets the general idea across. So yeah, it's maybe worth a listen if you want to see Travis's rapid improvement from 2013 onwards, but other than that, I don't think there's many other reasons for me to come back to this project. So that right there was my own personal list of bad rap albums by rappers that I usually think are pretty damn good. What would your list for this topic look like? Let me know, of course, down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this one. You can click here on the screen to check out my top 10 rap albums of 2016 video. It's one of my favorites that I've done recently, and much love to all of my Patreon supporters and channel members over here. With a special shout out to my biggest supporters, and those are Big Daddy Foe, Griffin Upchurch, I Am Regent, KWG13270, and Lucas1123.